So long, my friends, I'll see you again. It pains me to be here without Lynn. My time has come, mine so cumbersome, filled with whiskey, filled with sin, trampled down, this storm surround. Time to leave this broken town. Saying my goodbyes, I'm reminded of the times my father cried. I flew just like a bottle gracefully to the dirt beneath, trampled down this storm's around. It's time to leave this broken town. I'll take this road, however far it goes, and I'll drown my woes in every bar it holds. This bitter end left a bitter man. My sweetness left last summer's end. I flew just like a bottle gracefully to the dirt beneath, trampled down this storm surround. Time to leave this broken town, trampled down this storm surround. Time to leave. Time to leave. Time to leave this broken town. Time to leave this broken town. Time to leave this broken town. My heart pumping all day long, getting me to morning when darkness comes. My heart, ooh. I'll bear it. It takes so long to mend. It's harder to lean on this shell of a man. You found love in the Lord, your family and pray for me that I can find the same within. My heart, pumping all day long. When the evening comes, please stay strong. Give me the morning when darkness falls. My heart, I found victory in the Father's love from the day we wed, and those vows to hold true. Nothing's gonna tear me down until the damn end. My heart belongs to you. It's always at my back. My back is always strapped with these things that I call my own. Life, it isn't always grand, but when you finally take that stand, you become a man. You needed to You meant everything to me. While you left, I could not see. I guess people just do what they want. Time, it goes faster every day, and my heart, it leads the way, while the future, it fades into a memory. Is always at my back. My back is always strapped with these things that I call my own.
Sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these things simply aren't true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
As the world watches and listens in horror, the peaceful pro-democracy demonstration in China comes to a violent and bloody end.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wolves hiding nearby, whispering do or die around me. You say your last good night while I get
There is another very important phase of warfare. It has as its target not the body, but the mind of the enemy.
The target of psychological warfare is against the enemy's mind.
It is words and ideas.
The ammunition used by Psywar.
Its mission is to influence the thoughts of the enemy soldier, and at the same time
is expected and encouraged to study foreign languages and the social sciences such as history, economics, and sociology. He must have a broad and sympathetic understanding of all phases of human experience.
gripping at my skin, the walls of night close in.
But the use of this force as an integral part of combat has now taken on new form.
As I wait to say my last goodbye.
These are the Psywar soldiers.
Caught Up is an echo chamber for content creators. Almost all content on this show, Caught Up, is created by citizen journalists. I share content created by citizen journalists whom I believe to be the best at finding facts buried deep into the abyss, or outlets whom I believe to be the best for verifiable information. We have to operate within their system, and we only have the information they allow us to have. These individuals who nerd out on fact-finding missions and then add their opinion to better inform me, To make the best choice for me in this war of narratives is Resolute. This information war is a battle for your mind and ultimately compliance. Mainstream media would have you believe that an echo chamber promotes the spread of misleading information or fake news, thereby reinforcing one's confirmation bias. So, I am excited to share the content in hopes you will turn off mainstream media, whom I believe is just another version of entertainment. So again, welcome to Caught Up.
All right, guys, welcome to Caught Up. Another good episode, different day. All right. In the next couple weeks, things may change up a little bit here. It may not be Tuesdays and Fridays. I may try to do something Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Leave Fridays open again, and go from there. Anyway. It is what it is. I'm moving. My little house will be ready, and I have to get my studio, all that together, my little spare room, all that good stuff. You've been paying attention, watching the show for the last 5.5 months, or whatever, or longer, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So, but we are going to change the dates. I'm going to remove the Friday show of Caught Up and probably push it to Thursday. Anyway, for another day, right? So, this evening we have a lot to talk about because what we got going on here is where's it at? Right here. Vanderbilt University, new institute to train. Right type of leader. A new generation of security professionals. I don't know exactly what to think about that, but I can tell you there's some very interesting things that's going on about that Vanderbilt University getting into a new form of politics. Pretty interesting. So we got some of the Badlanders. They got about 15 minutes worth of their opinion. We're talking about John Harold. We're talking about Burning Bright and Just Human. They go over this topic pretty good. Ezra Cohen and Nakasami, however they pronounce his name, the old retired general, getting his hands into the education system through the universities after being in military and politics for quite some time. Interesting, right? Also, I have an article about the TBI agents, which is Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, raid Millersville Police Department because of some conspiracy theory. They get the FBI involved in a few other things, and we'll go over that briefly. But very, very interesting. It was an article given to me by my buddy Ron, and I told him I'd look into it, and I did. And then some interesting things about how the FDA classifies how their safety and health is with cell phones. Why is the FDA involved in that, right? Anyhow, let us get into, let's see right here, where we're going. How are we right here? Can I be heard? Can I be heard? We'll see. Okay. TBI agents raid Millerville's police department, home of town's conspiracy cop as a probe intensifies. It's got a video here of this Channel 5 News, and I want you to see the articles by Phil Williams and Levi, however you pronounce that guy's name. It's on September 4th. This gentleman here, Phil Williams, and I believe that's his face, right above the top of the cop car there. They work for the actual news channel. So it says, TBI agents raided the Millerville Police Department. The police department on Wednesday. This article's from September 4th, so it's a little past the time. Executing a search warrant as the criminal investigation into a trouble agency enters a dramatic new phase. Wait till you find out just exactly what this agency was involved in. A team of agents was also seen executing a separate search warrant at a White House resident of the department conspiracy-minded assistant police chief Sean Taylor. So they went to the police department, then they went to Sean Taylor's house. It says he can confirm the search warrant execution is underway, and the spokesperson said in an email that she later confirmed the search at the address where Taylor resides. So they confirmed both of them. Photos provided to News Channel 5 investigator shows agents combing through an unmarked police vehicle as Chief Brian Morris and Detective Todd Doris stood off to the side. Agents were also inside the department searching offices. About 9 miles away in rural Robertson County, Channel 5 investigators observed. So they were a part of this. They were notified. They were allowed to be there, obviously from a distance, to film that. That's familiar to us in our world that we know to be the way criminal minds think. And I'm not talking about the assistant chief. I'm talking about the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations. I'm talking about this channel, this news department that was with it. It says, and they were shown outside TBI agents of his home, which approximately features an American flag and a Trump flag on a flagpole just outside. So just so you know that, a flagpole with the American flag and a Trump flag on it is obviously newsworthy. TBI agents were seen going back and forth from their vehicles to the home carrying documents and clipboards. The canine dog being led around the property, which was observed, but TBI source later clarified that it was not a dog belonging to the Bureau. Isn't it funny how the news are watching the neighbors or the homeowner walk his dog while he takes a shit, and they try to credit TBI's canine dog being led around the house? While it's not known that what TBI agents are seeking, Taylor has appeared in videos in which he displays an impressive collection of electronic equipment that he utilizes to pursue his sometimes bizarre conspiracy theories. Now they're talking about the assistant chief of police of this town, Millersville, that he carries around electronic equipment to pursue his sometimes bizarre conspiracy theories. The search comes amid an ongoing News Channel 5 investigation that sparked a TBI investigation into the department under the leadership of Morris and Taylor. So the Channel News did their own independent investigation, and upon doing it, they get a hold of TBI. TBI is obviously on top of Morris and Taylor. That's the chief and the assistant chief. Two local district attorneys have previously confirmed that the News Channel 5 investigates that the TBI has been asked to investigate the possible use of sensitive law enforcement data to dig up dirt on potential political enemies. The TBI is also investigating possible perjury of Millerville detective stemming from his testimony in what appears to have been a botched child predator sting. So, long story short, online, the reaction from Sean Taylor's camp was predictable, as the conspiracy theorist at the center of the botched child predator sting posted a video in which he blamed Channel 5 News and TBI. They also gave their stuff to the FBI. So On May 2024, Millersville conspiracy cop, he imagines sinister plot involving some of the country's most prominent political figures. Taylor recently landed in Millerville as an assistant police chief, promising to root out the corruption he sees there. He gives all these hyperlinks there. The controversy over Millerville's conspiracy cop has now become the latest scandal rocking the town's tiny town just north of Nashville. Now, 2 city commissioners want a special meeting to figure out how Sean Taylor landed his job. The attorney for Millersville conspiracy cop Taylor has told the commission, whom he also represents, that they should not question the assistant police bizarre theories or psychological fitness. New podcast video uncovered reveals Sean Taylor spread false and dangerous conspiracy theories about last year's Covenant school shooting that left 3 students and 3 staff members dead. He did not spread false or dangerous conspiracy theories. They have now released the manifesto of the chick pretending to be a man, a transgender that walked into a school and did that. And this fucking news outlet is trying to make this man out to look like he's an Alex Jones. Anna Caudill agreed to watch the video of Sean Taylor, knowing there might be only so much she could handle among the 3 children and 3 adults killed that day. So they obviously reached out to somebody that was a part of that. So he went after Millersville former mayor. Now the town's assistant police chief says 2 critics on the city commission could be next. Anyway, if you go through this article, it goes on to talk about just exactly what the news outlet thinks of him. But if you get into it, you find out that it's over sex trafficking crimes of children and women, in which they found evidence that they tried to give to the TBI and the FBI, and at the time wouldn't take it. And then later, they show up with warrants, and they do this raid under the guise of a news channel, which they gave the information to first, so they leaked it. And then what do? They confiscated all of the evidence to make sure that the police department couldn't further investigate what was going on, and they offered up all that evidence to begin with. I'm assuming they went to the assistant police chief's house, because they didn't give us that information, to retrieve any extra information that he may have been concealing there, because he was right in his theories about they were coming to get that. They were coming to get that. You can find this guy on Twitter. I wonder if it's got it on this. Maybe, maybe not. One second here. Maybe. Oh, and apparently, yeah, InfoWars had their on it too. I was hoping maybe I could find his little video. It's about 5 minutes, but yeah, I don't think so. Anyhow.
Caught up.
Anyhow. Here's the article right there. And if you do any type of research into it beyond what I've done, you'll see just exactly what they're trying to accuse the gentleman of. And it appears as though that he has some really interesting evidence, alleged evidence maybe, on some prominent people who are involved in sex trafficking crimes. And so, I thought I would share that. Yeah, I really did. I thought I would share that. My buddy, I'll stop saying in just a minute. Yeah, my buddy Ronald. If you're watching, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for sending this to me. Okay, let's go into this right here. There it is right there. Ezra Cohen. Will this training include lessons on concealing information about election interference from Congress, violating IC standards on intelligent analysis, leaking to the media, and politicization of the security clearance process, trying to understand the value former NSA Director Nakasone opens new institute at Vanderbilt to train right type of leader. What's it say? Retired General Paul Nakasone opened a new institute of national security at the Vanderbilt University of Nashville on Wednesday with the plan to train the next generation of national security professionals. The former leader of the National Security Agency and U.S. Cyber Command is eager to fill the personnel needs of the federal workforce. And while I don't pretend to understand everything, a few of our Badlanders have a good handle on this already. And so, if I let them do their thing here, they're going to explain just exactly what's going on way better than I can. Remember, this show Caught Up is an echo chamber, and it's exactly what I do. I share the information that somebody else did the hard work to find, to dig up. Here we go. Enjoy.
They bring in, was it McMaster? I can't remember. It was McMaster. Wasn't it?
McMaster, yeah.
Yeah, McMaster comes in, and he's at the Flynn. Ezra's at the NSC. He's working with Rich Higgins, who wrote the Rich Higgins memo.
Yep.
Something you should read every single month, or just go to part 23 of my series. And then also Steve Bannon. There's a whole bunch of players there that are Devo connected, that are working to take out the deep state within the NSC. And Trump was aware of this whole thing going on. They all get fired. They're out of there by August. Ezra goes to work for Oracle shortly after the Q drops start. He comes back in. He's under Jeff Sessions, and then he makes his way back to the DOD. He's the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations and Low Intensity Conflict, a position he took over when Chris Miller went to the National Counterterrorism Center. And then after the stolen election, the day after Chris Miller gets put in there as Acting Secretary of Defense, Ezra Cohen Wadnick gets named to the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. So he's the highest civilian level in intelligence at the DOD. Same day that Kash Patel is named Chief of Staff for Chris Miller. This guy is around there the whole time. I think he's mentioned in the Q drops. This guy seems to be very well connected to a lot of very important people, and I personally think he's playing some sort of role, or was playing some sort of role in the implementing of devolution going out, okay? He had a tweet the other day, and I think this is one of the more interesting tweets that we've seen from any of the Devo connected players. Okay, let me read it. First, the Washington Times comes out with a story saying General Nakasone, who we've talked about a lot, opens a new institute at Vanderbilt to train the right type of leader. And this is what Ezra Cohen has to say. And if you've been following the show for a while, we've talked about Ezra and his apparent ill will towards General Nakasone. This guy's not a fan of Nakasone. And that's been something I've struggled to grapple with. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
but
it's a little confusing, yeah.
I've always thought Nakasone was a good dude. Head of Cybercom, NSA, replaced Admiral Rogers. Thought he'd be a good guy. Maybe he's not. I don't know. But this tweet is interesting. Will this training include lessons on concealing information about election interference from Congress, violating IC standards on intelligence analysis, leaking to the media, and politicization of the security clearance process, trying to understand the value add here? The big part here is concealing information about election interference from Congress. To me, this implies that somebody at the DOD, Ezra Cohen-Watnick, saw there was election interference. This is a Devo-adjacent player acknowledging that there was election interference, and he knew that Nakasone hid it from Congress. Their only overlap was when Ezra was at the DOD. And this, to my knowledge, this is the first time that I can think of that any of these players have directly said that there was election interference. Any of these DOD guys around Trump in the closing days of Trump's administration. I think this is a huge giveaway, but I'm curious what you guys think on it.
Well, one thing I was just doing is looking at the Ezra mentions in the drops, just in terms of his relevance. There's 9 drops that mention him. One of them in particular, which is probably the one that people think of the most, is 2057, which literally is just Ezra Cohen-Watnick Q. So, you know, like, not just like this random aside mention. There are 2 articles linked in the drops that are both from 2018 about Ezra Cohen-Watnick. One from the BBC, one from the New York Times. Both of them are no longer available. They're broken links. I was trying to find live versions of them.
Can you post them in the chat, and I'll see if I can find the way back.
I was trying to do that, but yeah, here I'll post both of them. Oops, let me get good versions of them. Yeah, I mean, to me, just general take on it would be the timing of it on the doorstep of 2024. Very generally speaking, it seems significant, especially to me, in concert with Trump's recent cease and desist double post. I don't know, but it just feels like, is this both sort of retroactive disclosure reminder of 2020 and a redeployment or a warning about 2024? You know, like, why, to your point, why would these things circa 2020 be coming out now? Is this kind of stuff actually trying to talk to us? I would lean toward no. I would think that these kinds of things are put out here for people in the know, in the machine, to see and do with what they will, that information. It just has the feeling to me of warning shots coming on the back, maybe more clandestine inside baseball warning shots on the back of Donald Trump's more obvious out there warning shots. But that's just how it strikes me.
Just to piggyback on what you said real quick and clarify kind of why I think it's so important. It's like a big aspect of why I think Trump had the authority and justification to walk away is because he saw that there was election interference, right? And the military or some other entity there saw that there was election interference. And he had every reason to interdict in Joe Biden's inauguration, but he chose not to. They the big part of this is they needed to see that there was actual election interference. Ezra Cohen-Watnick is acknowledging that they saw that interference.
Yeah.
And they had evidence of it. And apparently Nakasone didn't tell Congress about it. But that's the part of this that's here. It's like, this is, in my opinion, I mean, it's a subtle confirmation. And Maybe I'm just overthinking it and overreading it. I don't know, but this type of confirmation is a big one because it's the first time we've seen something like this.
Yeah, and I think it is big, and you're right to seize on it because it coming from somebody like Ezra, and then him saying election interference instead of influence is a big deal because there's this both like legally and as far as the implication of it that matters whether you say election in, especially when it's somebody who would be privy to some information that we would never be privy to. When they say interference versus them saying influence ops or things like that, or election attacks in our election infrastructure, it's different coming from them. And so when he uses election interference, that's a very strong phrase coming from someone who was in the levels of government that he was and had access to the information that he did. I've always had a positive opinion of Nakasone, but I also have kind of been cognizant of the fact that I don't really know who good and bad guys are in this, and none of us really do. But my read has been favorable to Nakasone, and I haven't seen anything that really dissuades me from that, except for what Ezra and other people. There's been a couple others I've seen that kind of threw some shade at Nakasone. My read on what Ezra is saying here is that he is disclosing something that I'm kind of surprised to see him disclose here, because it could lump him in with like being called an election denier from the first Trump admin or something. Just that little bit of a language right there, it kind of baits in media attacks sometimes, or at least it has for other Trump admin people, right? So Ezra, his language has usually been kind of clean of that. Mm-hmm. This is a departure from the language I've seen him use before. Notable for that. But I also think that you just said something, John, that, well, I don't disagree with you.
Was brilliant.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I think that it doesn't have to go as far as what you just characterized it as. And it kind of clicked a light bulb for me with what Ezra may be referring to. And that is that if Nakasone had more forcefully spoken out about concerns of election interference in 2020, then we may not have had Jan 6 happen. We may not have had the indictments against Trump. We may not have had the second impeachment against Trump. If the NSA had the back of Ratcliffe and Dr. Zuloff and others and said, look, there are legitimate reasons to be concerned about the election. I know CISA expressed a lot of confidence. The NSA disagrees. Cybercom disagrees with the confidence expressed by CISA. Like these, as I was talking to you about before the show, FBI, CISA, NSA, the ODNI, they got together and looked at the election interference stuff and the security of the election. Trump at the time, this is back in 2020, late November 2020 to January 2021. Trump is raising concerns and his team are raising concerns about the election. These IC entities that would have the access to the information to know whether or not concerns were legitimate or were justified or not, overblown or not. There was disagreement amongst them. We know Ratcliffe disagreed. We know that others disagreed within Trump's admin about the level of concern and how much attention that concern and how much weight that concern required during that time period. That feeds into Trump's calculus and his defense in his criminal case in DC right now today. And so I think Ezra, in highlighting Nakasone and saying, hey, you hid information about election interference from Congress. That's the only thing about this I don't understand is I don't know if Nakasone, is there some report he issued to Congress, some statement he issued to Congress that Ezra thinks should have included more information? I don't know, because to me, it's this looking back in my head is very much on this subject of November to January right now because of other stuff, namely Trump's case.
Well,
Nakasone could have played a bigger role in providing a proactive defense to Trump going forward, is what I'm saying.
Let me add something to what you're saying here. What you're talking about is the intelligence analysis that the intelligence community does, and he breaks these into two separate parts here. Violating IC standards on intelligence analysis. That's what D&I Ratcliffe basically accused the intelligence community of doing in his January 7th memo, where he said he disagreed, and the NIO from Cyber and said China basically interfered or influenced in the election, whatever. And then the separate part of it is the concealing information about election interference. Mm-hmm. That means there was information about election interference, and Nakasone did not present it to Congress. I'm assuming they had to have done like Gang of 8 briefings or something surrounding stuff around the election, you know, in the run up to J6 or whatever.
Could be. Yeah.
Who knows when that took place? But those are two different things. So like the IC standards and analysis is exactly what you're talking about, and what the ICA puts out every year. That's mandated by Executive Order 13848. But the actual concealment of information about election interference, that to me says that election interference did exist. And you're also spot on about what you said with the definition, him using that specific terminology. That is big because two things. This is the 2020 ICA, and so this would have been done at the time. Like, so I mean, it would have came out after Ezra was there, but it's that time period. This is how they defined interference. It's a subset of election influence activities targeted at the technical aspects of the election. That's big.
Yep. Later
on, they break this out into even further, like delineated more definition here, and this is where they add the assassination one, which I still think is super interesting for election interference and assassinations or military security interventions affecting an election. But yeah, the technical aspects. That's what we've been talking about, the machine stuff. I think I saw a video today of somebody during a live feed hacked a machine with a USB stick, and it hacked it in like 2 seconds or something, and he was able to manipulate whatever votes he wanted. That issue's not going away for this election.
Nope.
Speaking of machines, it's a little confusing on Q alerts. I had looked up Nakasone, and couple of the posts he comes up in is under the media keywords. You know how sometimes it does that, Kyle, where it's like it's talking about the media keywords in the piece of media that is in the drop. So there's a couple of drops that Nakasone is in, but he's one of the media keywords in the screenshot that Q is referencing. It's not something.
Share your screen.
Yeah,
okay, I know what you mean.
My setup is kind of like hard to use right now. Let me try to. All right.
Is there on a laptop or what?
Yeah, like you guys are tiny on my laptop. I can barely see what's happening here because I'm trying to keep everything on my phone. On my laptop. So if you look at here, like 4455 and 4446, you can see that Nakasone is not in the meat of the drop. He's in the media keywords from this screenshot from the tweet.
What's it say? DOD has enduring role in election defense? I think that's in one of my devolution articles.
And I say, we began the ability for us to defend the presidential elections, not today, not 6 months from now. We began it the day after the midterm elections. That was a quote from General Paul Nakasone. Yep. So this was a February 10th, 2020 article, defense.gov or statement. I thought it was. So here's the meat of the Q drop in reference to what you were just saying, John. What happens when Ds can no longer cheat electronically, push vote by mail? What event was necessary to provide cover for push? It's just interesting in the context of election frauding, voting machines, etc., that Nakasone is in these drops.
Well, that's interesting too, because in that article, and this is in my part 9, Nakasone himself gives the distinction between interference and influence. Mm-hmm. We look at this in two ways. One is covert influence, and there's interference. For interference, what we're talking about is an adversary trying to change a vote total, targeting election infrastructure, voter rolls. Influence is more of a social media component.
Yeah, there's another drop so there's 3 drops that he's mentioned in. The third one is direct, and it's actually the first drop chronologically. April 25th, 2018. Did you know? Quiet Army Lieutenant General Paul Nakasone. Good. Q.
Interesting.
Take for what it's worth, but given that this stuff comes up, so I wanted to float kind of a narrative theory, but go ahead, because it's tangential to this.
Well, real quick, that last drop, share your screen again. What was it? Something about quiet good? Because Ezra Cohen-Wadnick right there is basically saying that Nakasone was quiet to Congress. He concealed stuff.
Exactly.
That's
exactly. Oops. So did you know? Quiet Army Lieutenant General Paul Nakasone. Good.
Interesting.
And to piggyback off of that drop, if we're a lot of the times when we play these guessing games and we try to put colored hats on people, we understand we're in an info war. It goes back and forth. And I also understand when people can get frustrated because it's like, you can have it both ways with Nakasone. You want him to be a good guy, you can make him a good guy. You want him to be a bad guy. If I'm trying to game out, what's the why? Well, why would Ezra's statements now, in the context of 2024, be adversarial to Nakasone. I think both of you are characterizing his statements fairly. It seems adversarial, it seems accusatory. If I want to put the kayfabe hat on and say, why are we playing kayfabe between Ezra Cohen Watnick and the IC and Paul Nakasone on the eve of the 2024 election, we use the term narrative shielding all the time, right? So much of your research, John, hinges on there was election fraud in 2020. Donald Trump and his team, his intelligence team, knew that there was election fraud. We believe that the combatant commanders that Trump had a good relationship with knew that there was election fraud. To me, this little bit of what could be kayfabe is kind of strangely encouraging, because I think it might be laying the groundwork narratively for the military to get narrative shielding about involving themselves in the 2024 election cycle, because Nakasone is going to be able to go forward. Let's say he's a good guy for the sake of argument. He's going to get to come out and say, I didn't go forward with Donald Trump and his intelligence team's reports of election interference in 2020 because I didn't want the military to be involved in a United States election, and I didn't think that there was enough there. You know, like, it gives him all of this shielding. Meanwhile, the intelligence team is sitting there saying, we told you at the time that there was foreign interference in an election, and you, the combatant commanders, the US military, didn't take action to do anything about this, even though we recommended you did. So when we talk about thresholds of military action, red lines being crossed, is this a bit of a narrative game being played to try to put Trump's intel team at public odds with the military so that when the military does involve themselves, they're not seen as doing so at Trump's bidding?
That's a really interesting way to classify that. And a little bit later on, we're going to get into Miller's transcript, because there's some interesting parts in there, and that is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody within like Trump's DOD, at least in these transcripts, what they've been saying is like, the last thing I want is to have the military look like they're involved in the elections in any way. Like, we don't want that. We don't want it. We don't want it.
So if Trump's intel team is telling the public, hey, we went to the military under Trump and they didn't do anything about it, that might be kind of paving the way for them to do something about it next time.
Well, but think about this though, like, all their statements was we want to distance themselves. I think that was on purpose.
Yeah.
But we already know now, this time for the 2024 election, the military is going to be part of the J6 stuff. Like, they're helping with security. They've already labeled the 2024 inauguration as like the national NSSE, National Security Special Event or something.
Yeah.
And so security is going to be way more beefed up. It's going to be all around there. And we have that War Game movie coming out Friday, by the way, that documentary.
Oh, really?
It airs on Friday. Well, it's already airing, but it's coming to Amazon on Friday. That's like one of their big
Alright, guys. I messed that up, didn't I? Had myself muted. I messed that up. Catch it a little quicker now. Anyway, those guys break down. General Nakasami, Nakasami. How do you pronounce his name? They do a wonderful job of trying to the character that plays the role sometimes of the villain and then sometimes of the hero. And it's hard to discern exactly where he fits in to this puzzle. And so Devolution Power Hour on Wednesday, those three gentlemen on the Wednesday show go into great detail about what his role is, and he kind of plays a little bit of both sides there. It's weird. You want to hope a guy like that's on your side, honor side, patriot side, that kind of thing, and then you can prove that he's done some things that would suggest that. And then this. And we don't quite understand everything, but we work very, very hard, if you're like me, to read and research and not just to believe the guys that I listen to completely, and make sure that I do the due diligence to find it for myself. So we know right here. Nakasami on his new gig at Vanderbilt, deliberations at OpenAI, nation state threats. He says after nearly 4 decades in the U.S. military, including 6 leading the country's largest intelligence agency and the Pentagon's largest digital war-fighting force, Paul Nakasone brushes off the idea that he's now an outsider. The former head of U.S. Cyber Command and the National Security Agency stepped down earlier this year and will serve as the first director of Vanderbilt University. Look this article up. It goes all the way back to May. I found them as far as back as May, I think. And if you go into the Wayback Machine, it may even go even further than that. But goes into great, maybe not great detail, but I think it's Gateway Pundit, maybe Epoch Times, maybe Breitbart, whatever. They talk a little bit about this thing at Vanderbilt, this class to. Anyway, let's get back to the article, because now I know Badlands Media does a great job discussing the real meat and the potatoes of what's going on, but we have to first look at all points of information that they allow us to have, right? So let's get back into that. Says he will serve as the first director of Vanderbilt University's brand new Institution of National Security. The past 10 years, he spent a tremendous amount of time in D.C. I know the people that work in the national security ecosystem. I've been a part of 2 different administrations. I've served under 6 different secretaries. And there is no sense that I have an idea of where we need to be able to focus our efforts, he said to reporters before the Institute's formal kickoff event on yesterday. Nakasone said the new hub has a timeline of efforts as it gets off the ground, including quick wins, breathtaking initiatives that will take 90 days to accomplish, and long-term projects that will take 1 to 3 years to complete. One effort, dubbed 25 for 25, seeks to place 25 Vanderbilt interns. 25 Vanderbilt interns into different federal agencies, including the state and commerce departments. The first time I came to DC, I was just like, wow. That was 4 years into being in the Army, Nakasone said. Would really like to have that same feeling for people that come from Vanderbilt that have an opportunity in the future to do those type of internships. The Institute also aims to be in contact with the transition team of whoever wins the presidential election, according to Nakasone. So this is why we talk about how he plays both. He's a man that stands on the fence. He plays both sides. The hub has also begun an immersion program to allow undergraduates from different majors participate in the national security studies and special projects. The program, which previously only lasted one semester, will be stretched to 2. It's also in the process of creating undergraduate and graduate degrees in national security, determining what a major and minor in the discipline would look like. I'm not so sure, ladies and gentlemen, that we need that in our federal government. Some man or woman who's a professor and can persuade the minds of the youth and then somehow get them to volunteer to be an internship. I don't like it. OpenAI, the retired 4-star general who also serves as on OpenAI's board of directors, its newly created Safety and Security Committee, indicated he was not concerned that CEO Sam Altman departed that internal panel. I think it's a normal progression of continuing advancing the company, he said. Election security. Nakasone, who previously vowed the 24 presidential election would be the most secure yet. Where have we heard that shit before? That's almost like saying, trust me. Nah, I don't think so. Lauded the government's recent actions to expose, hang on, Iranian and Russian attempts to influence and potentially meddle in the race. We're on election security, guys. It's fantastic that we're identifying it, he said. The number one remedy for influence and interference is shining a light on it. And the fact that we are shining a light on what the Russians are doing, what the Iranians are doing, what the Chinese might be doing, that's exactly what we should be doing, as opposed to wondering 6 months later what happened. Still, I would anticipate that leading up to the election, we're going to continue to see a number of different attempts by our adversaries to do this type of work, whether or not it's influence or interference. We're seeing the tradecraft change, he added, echoing comments from current intelligence chiefs. If the public doesn't see more than naming and shaming that has occurred in recent weeks, my sense is that the strategy and the campaign that's being conducted by our government to minimize the influence will have been successful, he predicted. Did you hear that? Hear what I said? The campaign that's being conducted by our government to minimize that influence will have been successful. That type of indoctrination that bothers the fuck out of me. They go to University of Vanderbilt. They are a star among many, and they whisk them up and take them to Washington, D.C. I get that on a foreign type of level, you know, where we should truly have that kind of defense mechanism ready and in place to make sure that we don't get hit when we least expect it. Like during times of the transition from one president to the next. I know, it's a one-day event. They televise it. Blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. That's all I can say. Bullshit. Everything is bullshit. Since China, Beijing remains the number one focus area for what we need to be able to do in the future, he told reporters. It's the only nation today that can threaten the United States and our allies in terms of rewriting the world order. Kind of crazy, ain't it? Finally crazy. Let's see what we got here. So, the former retired general who's been a part of our cyber security, all the things that we discussed about him, all the things that Badlands Media reported on him, the CISAs, the ODNIs, the Department of Defense, the FBI, so on and so forth. I've done shows, they've done shows, lots of people have done shows. Shouldn't be, shouldn't be new information to you. Has left the federal government to become the head of a institution that's supposed to help safeguard our elections and hide things from we the people in Congress. Interesting. You can go look for yourself, guys. It's on. New York Times, right? Oh, my bad. The Washington Times. The Record. Funny how some of these people get access to information quicker than some of us who work their ass off to find the research to do so. And we never get it. It's not about being first. It's not about being last. It's about being as honest as you can to do the right thing. If you've seen any of my posts here lately between Facebook, Instagram, Truth, Twitter, whatever, it says do the right thing. Do the right thing. Period. Doesn't matter who's in the way to stop you from doing the right thing. You do it anyway. So the Record called The Record. There's Paul Nakassan, December 19th. Deliberations, open AI, the same thing we just read a minute ago. It's actually the exact same thing. Okay. I didn't know if maybe you all knew anything about The FDA. Hello. The FDA. FDA. And radio frequency signals. Radio. Are you aware? So, another friend of ours did some research, stumbled across this. Her name's Renee. She found this. Interesting to share before we close out the show, because like what we do, we talked about the TBI rating a sheriff's department and the assistant chief of police, his home, over sex trafficking evidence that they had on people who were prominent celebrities and politicians and so on. They went after the sheriff's department. Somehow they got the local news agency to investigate the sheriff's department. Then we go into Paul Nakason, whoever, retired general, becomes a leader for Vanderbilt's new institution of security readiness to fill the roles with interns. Is it left? It depends on what administration is in there. No. We don't want nothing like that. I don't want nothing like that. And then last but not least, this FDA thing. Right here. When did it come up? Health and safety. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Health and safety. It didn't come up. What's going on? You know, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this right here. That's why. Still didn't bring it up. Hang on, guys. See if I can get this right now. A little bit of a learning curve, guys. Still ain't showing it. See if it does it now. It's weird. I have to do something different. I don't like that. I'm supposed to pull up screenshots. You're not supposed to see all my stuff. It's here. Still isn't doing it. Nope. I'll get it figured out. I was going to show you what the FDA. I could probably still read it anyway. Let's see. I'll get it figured out. I was going to show you what the FDA. Radio frequency signals. Mobile devices communicated by receiving and transmitting radio waves. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has published information. It's a shame y'all can't see this. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out why. Figure out why. Figure out why they didn't work out the way I needed. And then I'll go back over it again. It goes into great detail. She did a fantastic job. She posted it on Facebook, said she did the research. I saw it. I went over it and looked at it real good and went back into some of the things where she got the information from. It was great. Took some screenshots, thought I would share it. And for whatever reason, I can't get the damn screenshots to pop up so that we can show it. So I'll do a better job of finding a way to put it in a file so when I pull it up, then we're not having this issue, and then we can go over it. You can look for it yourself. It has the links to send you to where it's at, but basically it shows you about how damaging the radio frequencies are in certain things, especially your cell phone, and how much they allow it to have, and what illnesses it creates. And it's a bad word in my home, so we won't say it. But she did a fantastic job, and I wanted to make sure that I found a way to share it, because once again, my show's an echo chamber and citizen journalist, and if you're doing something, if you're doing something, you're not just sitting there watching, you're doing something, you're having conversations at the damn water cooler, you're talking to people at work, church, walking your dog down the street in your neighborhood, whatever. If you're not having conversations, good conversations about what's going on politically in our country, you're really doing yourself a disservice. To say that you aren't involved in politics is a lie. Everybody's buying eggs right now that are $4.50 a dozen. That's the highest. I've seen that. Eggs, $4. Milk, bread, inflation, all these things, they're affecting our wallet, our way of life. So to sit back and say, I don't get involved in politics is a fucking lie. You're just not uncomfortable enough yet. And I don't know what it'll take to make that happen. You're obviously way too comfortable. And so if you're not being affected right now in this time, or haven't been over the last 3+ years, then chances are you don't care who's the president. You don't care what Congress does or Senate or anything else. So, because it doesn't affect you. Once it affects your pocketbook, once it affects your family, once it affects the things that you consider to be the most important to you, and until that happens, then we wash, rinse, and repeat. So let's try to think. It's Thursday's show. It's been an hour and 22 minutes. We've gone over some interesting things. Haven't had a bunch of viewers live at one time, but not everybody realizes I'm doing it on Thursday. I'm doing it on Thursday because I got plans tomorrow night, but I really would like, by the time I get moved into my new little home, change that up so that it would be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Tuesday, a caught-up show. Wednesday, a whatever show. Thursday, another caught-up show. And maybe it doesn't work out that way. Maybe, I don't know. I'll get it figured out. And then during football season, like tomorrow, my Touchdown Tennessee show. Yeah. It's tough trying to keep people informed. takes a lot out of you. It's my duty. I'm happy to do it. All right, guys. I'm Brian Riley. My show is Caught Up. My channel is Resolute Exposure. We are an echo chamber. We say if you got family, hug them. If you got a wife, put your arms around her kids, parents, grandparents, whatever the case may be. Because everyday living can rob you from some of those things. Especially in times that we are in now, which I happen to believe we are in a time of history. And I appreciate that so much. And so, y'all have a good evening. I will see you tomorrow sometime on Touchdown Tennessee, and then again on Tuesday. And so y'all have a good, safe weekend. And like, share, follow. And I hope you got caught up.
My heart, pumping all day long, getting me the morning when darkness comes. My heart, ooh. It takes so long to mend. It's harder to lean on this shell of a man. You found love in the Lord, your family and your friends. Could you please pray for me that I can find the same within? My heart, pumping all day long. When the evening comes, please stay strong. Give me the morning when darkness falls. My heart, I found victory in the Father from I'm gonna pick my bones up and walk through the storm I made. I'm gonna head on home before it gets too late. I turn it upside down and be thankful for what he gave. I'm gonna pick my bones up and walk through the storm I made. I'm gonna hold on tight to you when it gets rough. I'm gonna lay down all my cards and call your bluff. Because the one thing in this moonlit room I trust is the beauty of your smile and the warmth inside your touch. Oh, there's nothing like a love, nothing like a love of a woman. The way she holds you tight, way she holds you tight when you need it most. Just that little bit, just to keep on living. That's when you find out what you're made of. I'm gonna pick my bones up and walk through the storm I made. I'm gonna head on home before it gets too late. I turn it upside down. Pick my bones up and walk through the storm I made. I'm gonna hold on tight to you when it gets rough. Yeah. I'm gonna lay down all my cards and call your bluff. Because the one thing in this moonlit room I trust is the beauty of your smile and the warmth inside your touch. Oh, there's nothing like love, nothing like love of a woman. The way she holds you tight, way she holds you tight when you need it most. It gives you just that little bit, just to keep on living. And that's when you find out what you're made of. That's when you find out. That's when you find out what you're made of.